Zhu Yan, the demon emperor, took a look at Zhu Zhao and asked, "Why are you here?" Zhu Yan, the demon emperor, took a look at Zhu Zhao and asked, "Why are you here?" "I heard something was going on in Demon Metropolis, so I came to have a look," Zhu Zhao answered. "No problem with you coming here. Take good care of the lot of them, or I'd skin you myself," Zhu Yan said with an overbearing voice, causing Zhu Zhao to stare straight ahead. "Big brother here is going to take good care of us, uncle. You can relax," the princess of the Feather Men clan said with a smile. She was white all over, and her smile was pure. Zhu Yan clapped her shoulder and continued, "Especially her. If I were to find out that you let someone else out there bully her, you'd be getting it from me." Zhu Zhao bared his teeth somewhat at him, looking rather displeased. "Let's go." Zhu Yan did not care about Zhu Zhao's expression and walked away. The demon emperor of the Celestial Fox Palace came out and asked instead, "Aren't you going to come in and sit for a little while in the Celestial Fox Palace?" "Nah. Your place is beyond me." Zhu Yan waved his hands for a bit and said, "Best you people invite those friends of yours from Yingzhou Mountain instead." Yi Futian took a look in their direction before he turned around and left as well. "I'm so sorry, Sir Yi," Hu Yaoer said in a soft voice. Yi Futian took a look at her and said, "That has nothing to do with you. We'll meet again." He said this before he left as well. There was no way he could have stayed there any longer after all that had happened. Cooperating with Celestial Fox Palace was out of the question altogether as well. While it was true that those from Celestial Fox Palace were unable to keep the ones from Yingzhou Mountain in check, they could have at least stayed neutral. Yet they failed to do even that. They were all eager to have Yi Futian hand the stuff over to settle all that commotion. It became clear that they were siding with Yingzhou Mountain. But then again, that was normal. He was only one human cultivator, after all. And there was no way he could compare to the entire force that was Yingzhou Mountain. The two parties were not even at the same level at all, and there was little to be said between them. Yi Futian did not let all that bother him, but there was no way he could have been friends with them either. After Yi Futian and the others left, those from Yingzhou Mountain remained glum. The Demon Emperor of the Celestial Fox Palace came before the Demon Emperor of Yingzhou Mountain and asked, "Just what is that bone? If those from Yingzhou Mountain were to go to such lengths to secure it, then the item must be some extremely valuable treasure." The Demon Emperor of Yingzhou Mountain took a look at the other Demon Emperor and answered telepathically, "Bone of Divine Elephant Emperor of 10 Directions." The Demon Emperor of the Celestial Fox Palace shuddered for a bit. The aura around him flickered, and an extremely sharp look was seen in his eyes. They felt an extremely intense sharp pain in their minds all of a sudden. That divine elephant who served the demon monarch told in the legends? That divine elephant emperor of 10 directions? The demon emperor of the Celestial Fox Palace asked further telepathically. The demon emperor of Yingzhou Mountain nodded, which caused the other party to shudder further deep down. Despite being a demon emperor, his mind remained extremely rattled. Just what have we of Celestial Fox Palace traded away? He thought. Did we just trade a bone of the divine elephant emperor of 10 directions with the price of saint level? This is insane, he thought. If the matter were to be heard elsewhere, it would have ruined Celestial Fox Palace's reputation. The Celestial Fox Palace, which was known for its intellect, would be reduced to an utter laughingstock. That was the most powerful relic that they at Celestial Fox Palace had ever gotten their hands on after all. While they had no idea what purpose it served, the item's status, which bore the name of Divine Elephant Emperor of 10 Directions, would have made it one of the rarest treasures to be found in the world. And yet they just traded it just like that. That was done all because the Demon Emperor of the Celestial Fox Palace was unable to fathom its use. All because he knew that it was extremely resilient and nothing else. "I'm reporting this to the Palace Lord," he said. "If the Palace Lord were to punish them over this, then all of the ones involved would probably end up getting caught in the mess. You know just how serious the matter is then. Don't spread it elsewhere, or we'll end up with nothing in the end. Now that we of Yingzhou Mountain have become allies with you, if you were to be able to take the bone back from Zhu Yan at Origin Mountains, we of Yingzhou Mountain would definitely be sure to pay you guys of Celestial Fox Palace handsomely," the Demon Emperor of Yingzhou Mountain added telepathically. We shall talk further in the palace, the other demon emperor said. That mighty one from Yingzhou Mountain then shook his head and said, no need for that. Time is short, and we need to report back as well. We've come secretly, because we did not want to cause a commotion. Now that we've failed, and the item has fallen into the hands of a very difficult person, things have gotten rather tricky, and we need to inform the others at Yingzhou Mountain. Sure. The demon emperor of the Celestial Fox Palace nodded, and both left. Seeing how the demon emperors talked in secret up in the air, many were curious as to what that bone was. However, none of the demon emperors obviously wanted it known by others, and so they did not voice their concerns. There was no doubt that it was a treasured piece, however. But then again, since it was now in the hands of Zhu Yan, taking it back would be difficult as well. Zhu Yan took his men and left unusually swiftly, coming to a peak in Demon Metropolis before long. They were many cavern residences for training. Who did you learn those staff techniques from? Zhu Yan looked at Futian and asked. I'm good friends with the golden apes at the lower worlds, Futian answered. The apes? Zhu Yan looked far away and added. Some techniques you have. The demon emperor then took out that piece of bone and said. The bone is extremely hard, but it looks unassuming, and there doesn't seem to be anything special about it. No telling what use would it serve. No wonder those at the Celestial Fox Palace were unable to see what it truly is. Hell, even I wouldn't be able to actually tell what this thing is, thinking that it is only a very resilient piece of bone, belonging to a demon emperor. Do you know what this is? I do not. Futian shook his head. Then how could you tell that it was an extraordinary piece, and refused to trade it with Yingzhou Mountain? Zhu Yan then asked further. I have some special abilities that allow me to know this thing is extraordinary. And then, the ones at Yingzhou Mountain seem to be out to get it at all costs. So it would make sense that I actually underestimated its value, Futian answered. Zhu Yan nodded. Futian was right to have such thoughts. Judging by how badly those on Yingzhou Mountain wanted it, the true value of that bone might have been terrifying. Those from Yingzhou Mountain aren't going to just let it slide. This thing would be a difficult piece to keep around. Good thing that they thought that I'm the one holding on to it for the time being. You take care of it yourself then, Zhu Yan said as he threw the piece to Futian. Futian took it and looked up at Zhu Yan. Thank you, senior. That thing was yours to begin with. Did you seriously think I'd take it from you? Zhu Yan then said, before turning around and leaving. But don't let anyone else see it. I understand. Futian nodded. Futian held the bone in his hand after Zhu Yan left, heading into a cavern residence. The Black Wind Condor and Futian were connected telepathically. The bird kept watch outside, and laid out sealing powers outside the cavern residence. It then sat around and looked at Kong Xian, who was not far away, and said, Princess Kong Xian, let's talk about the relationship between you and Master. Kong Xian turned around to glare at the bird. Xiaqing Yuan, who was somewhere nearby, turned around and shot a cold look as well. No need to be shy, princess. I'm just to do you a favor as a matchmaker, as a way of thanking you for all you have done for me, the Black Wind Condor continued. You really have a death wish, don't you? Kong Xian quipped coldly before flashing and leaving right away. Xiaqing Yuan continued to glare at the bird with cold eyes. The bird leaned around lazily and asked, What is the matter, princess? I just think roasted condor seems like a good idea, Xiaqing Yuan then answered coldly. The Black Wind Condor shuddered for a bit and glared at Xiaqing Yuan, finding the woman to be very ferocious. This woman could never be the mistress, or I'd be in huge trouble, it thought. Futian sat cross-legged inside the cavern residence. That bone was placed right before him, and his aura was extended, shrouding the bone. Ethereal branches of the world tree swayed and tangled with the bone, wrapping it up bit by bit. At that moment, dazzling golden light was emitted from the bone, and it surprisingly merged with the ethereal branches gradually. The bone then fused with the branches altogether, and was absorbed into Futian's body bit by bit. The world tree in his life palace swayed, and there was a piece of bone in the leaves of the tree. The golden radiance grew increasingly bright. Powerful might of the great path spread from within and grew in strength. The specter that Futian conjured with his will inside the life palace appeared, and it shuddered slightly, looking at the bone, finding the power to make the piece formidable. Rumble, rumble. Under the golden radiance, the life palace seemed to be rumbling and shaking. Extremely divine pressure rained down in his life palace, causing the whole place to shake. That bone seemed intent on breaking through his life palace and escaping. The world tree continued to sway. Branches all over the place shot out and enveloped the world of his life palace, stabilizing the place like a mountain. Rumbling noises continued to be heard. Even so, boundless golden divine light burst from the bone. There seemed to be dazzling runes appearing and shooting out in its surroundings. The boundless runes then coalesced into golden demon statues, and elephant trumpets were heard, shaking the place and overwhelming the air about. The bone of a demon elephant emperor then? Futian spoke deep down, and his heart remained shaken. Furthermore, the bone definitely did not belong to a common demon emperor, but one that was extremely formidable, one who was a cut above the other demon emperors. His life palace became rather stifled as the trumpeting of the divine elephants went on. The golden light also shone even more brilliantly, and a ring of light dazzled. A figure was seen appearing gradually, and it grew in size. The golden divine elephants then faced the direction of that being and worshipped. A huge, boundless shadow of the divine elephant emperor appeared in the world of his life palace. That divine elephant emperor looked incredibly majestic as it looked down on its surroundings. It was as if it was standing high up in the clouds, and it seemed able to subdue anything with just a single step. At that moment, Futian saw an image depicting an extremely tall divine elephant emperor. Countless divine elephants worshipped it as it walked in the sky. Its thick, massive legs stepped down. It was easily able to reign supreme over a region. Thousands of demons laid prostrate on the ground as it walked, all of them worshipping it, making it seem like it was the king of all demons. The rumbling of his life palace had gotten increasingly loud. Light from countless runes burst out of Futian's mind. The golden essence was fused with his body as well. Intense rumbling reverberated throughout his life palace, causing even the cavern residence that Celine was in to shake as well, with rumbling noises heard outside. The black wind condor outside then blinked and turned around to look inside, wondering what just happened. The peak shook as well. It looked as if it was about to collapse. Dazzling might of the great path punched through the peak and carved a slit, shooting inside Futian's body, which was in the cavern. A dazzling beam of light shot upward from Futian, turning into an extremely massive shadow of the divine elephant. One figure after another flashed and looked at the cavern residence that Futian was in. All of them were wondering what he was doing inside. Zhu Yan stepped out and looked in that direction as well. He was pondering seriously. Is it getting through the secrets of that bone? He wondered. He wondered if a saint would be able to be better at such feats than he was. Furthermore, that was a bone of a demon emperor, not something left behind by a Renhuang. If you find any errors, broken links, non-standard content, etc., please let us know so we can fix it as soon as possible. Many mighty ones gathered right outside the cavern residence that Futian was training in. The bird blinked, thinking that its master was really impressive. Many mighty ones gathered right outside the cavern residence that Futian was training in. The bird blinked, thinking that its master was really impressive. That demon emperor bone, that the demon emperor of the celestial fox palace. And Zhu Yan was unable to tell what it was had already been taken care of by the bird's master. Rumbling noises continued to be heard, and there was even the trumpeting of elephants mixed within at times. Zhu Yan extended his demonic will to shroud the place, preventing anyone from peering into what was truly happening there. If anything from what he was doing leaked outside, it would have resulted in a disaster for Futian. Boom! A loud rumble came from the cavern residence after a while. The seal was broken, and someone dressed in white emerged, whose silver hair billowed. The aura all around him shimmered, and golden light coursed throughout his body. His aura seemed to have grown stronger than before, and his plane seemed increasingly stabilized. A golden sheen was seen in Futian's eyes. Several life spirits of his had been destroyed years ago. The life spirits of metal and earth elements were both gone. The newly born life spirit, however, was innately equipped with those two elements, and the power of great path resided within it. Few would have done it like he had, reforging his life spirit even after becoming a saint. The process saved him the trouble of evolving his life spirit, as the power of the great path was innately imbued. That, coupled with the bone, allowed for his newly born life spirit to be extremely formidable. It went without saying that he rescinded the life spirit right away. It was unwise to reveal it easily after all. While the few demon emperors had been nice to him, it was still better to keep secrets, like creating a whole new life spirit to a select few. So, you have unraveled the secrets of the demon emperor bone, I take it? Zhu Yan looked at Yi Futian and asked. His expression was rather peculiar. Yi Futian had accomplished something that he failed to do. This guy is just, Zhu Yan thought. Zhu Yan had been looking at the demon emperor bone just a while ago, and he was unable to see anything. It was no surprise why those at Celestial Fox Palace overlooked its value, and those at Yingzhou Mountain probably knew its true value. However, Yi Futian seemed to have been able to unravel its secrets within mere moments. Indeed, Yi Futian nodded. Goodness gracious! Zhu Yan was utterly dumbfounded, while the other three demon emperors sported baffled expressions as well. That actually happened? This friend of Zhu Zhao may turn out to be a monster after all. No? They thought. By the way, just how did someone like this not get taken away by any of those top-notch forces in Heavenly Mandate Realm? They wondered. Are your people reliable? Zhu Yan asked telepathically. Yi Futian nodded slightly and answered, Rest assured, senior. Those who were at his side were people who had been through thick and thin with him, with the exception of Kong Xian. He knew Kong Xian long enough, and she definitely would not sell him out. Those that the demon peacock emperor left at her side would definitely be trusted monsters as well. What is that thing anyway? Zhu Yan asked after seeing him nodding. The demon emperor did not hide anything, as he was truly curious about the bone. A bone of the elephant emperor. Yi Futian answered. It contains the will of the elephant emperor. Please have a look. Elephant trumpeting was heard from his body as he took a step forward. A dazzling divine elephant shadow appeared shortly afterward, reigning supreme all over their surroundings. The ground shook violently. The mountain trembled. Shadows of elephants sprung from all around them. The might emanating from it was extremely formidable. Zhu Yan's face lit up, and he turned to look at the demon emperors around him, asking, What do you all think? Probably something of the current demon emperor of the divine elephants. The demon emperor of the thunder gods shook his head and said, If it is something of the current demon emperor of the divine elephants, those people back there would have acted a long time ago, and the bone wouldn't have fallen into the hands of the Celestial Fox Palace. It would have been utterly ridiculous that the bone remained so unassuming. Furthermore, the Celestial Fox Palace claimed that this thing came from the Origin Mountains. Could this be from an elephant emperor of ancient times then? The demon emperor of Taotai added, If the ones at Yingzhou Mountain value the bone this much, then it couldn't be from a common elephant emperor, Zhu Yan added. The demon emperor of the feather men's eyes gleamed, and then said, It reminds me of someone. The other three demon emperors turned their eyes to look at him. They all offered a guess soon after. Their eyes became pointed, and their minds seemed rattled. Would it turn out to be that someone? Divine Elephant Emperor of 10 Directions, the demon emperors said almost at the same time. All of them looked at each other as soon as they said the name, and all of them saw the shock in each other's eyes. The Celestial Fox Palace actually came into possession of a bone that belonged to the Divine Elephant Emperor of 10 Directions by chance? Judging from how much value Yingzhou Mountain deemed it to be, the possibility was indeed very high. Divine Elephant Emperor of 10 Directions? Yi Futian asked in a low voice. A steed of an ancient demon monarch, the king of the divine elephants, who ruled a vast territory, and was known as the Divine Elephant Emperor of 10 Directions. He reigned supreme right after the demon monarch himself. Zhu Yan looked at Yi Futian and added, Legend said that one step from the Divine Elephant Emperor of 10 Directions was able to pin down the great path over a vast region. He was also known as invincible in the demon realm in terms of power, and once brought the divine dragons to their knees, a testament to him being a king of sheer power. Yi Futian's mind was rattled. That would have made the demon emperor a monster like none other from many, many years ago. There has been commotion sweeping all over Origin Mountain. And have you heard of some rumors regarding the place? Legends in the demon realm say that Origin Mountain might possibly be the place where the demon monarch was buried. The demon monarch's body became the land, while his blood became the lakes and rivers, giving birth to all manner of demons. That was why Origin Mountain was lauded as the ancestral land of demons. Zhu Yan then continued, if this turns out to be just like how it was told in the rumors, then it is indeed possible that the divine elephant emperor of 10 directions might have been buried at Origin Mountain. Years passed and what happened was lost in the course of history. We can only speculate with what we've got. Futian nodded while his mind remained rattled. He was able to vaguely sense that Zhu Yan was probably right. It was extremely probable that the bone belonged to the divine elephant emperor of 10 directions, that formidable monster that once reigned supreme in the demon realm. He never expected to have been able to internalize something like that and make it part of his powers. If this turns out to be true, your luck is off the charts indeed. But then again, there is no telling if this will turn out to be a blessing or a curse. You really need to be more careful from here on out. Zhu Yan reminded him. I understand. Futian nodded. Many demonic beasts looked at Futian and felt somewhat jealous. Even the demon emperors were unable to help but feel the same. Futian's luck was truly out of this world, as he had internalized a bone that belonged to the divine elephant emperor of 10 directions. But then again, even if they were given that bone, none of them would have been able to unravel its secrets. They deemed that Futian must have had some special means for being able to pull that off. But Zhu Yan did not ask any further. Everyone had their secrets, and there was no need to delve that deep into it. It would have made things awkward otherwise. Get back to training then, Zhu Yan then said. Everyone had their routines interrupted by all the ruckus Futian caused. Futian nodded, and the crowd dispersed, returning to their respective training grounds. Futian returned to his cavern residence to continue comprehending the secrets of the bone. He did not know how much time passed when he suddenly sensed a mystical aura. He opened his eyes and looked outside. There seemed to be a powerful demonic aura all over the place. What is happening? Futian stepped out and wondered if something emanated from any one of the demon emperor's training. It was dark and gloomy outside. While the moon was still high up in the air, it was shrouded by dark clouds. The light from the moon was entirely blocked. He looked up and found Zhu Yan was there as well. That demon emperor was not the only one, as there were also some other demon emperors around. Even Zhu Zhao and the others all looked up in different directions. Some intense demonic aura indeed, Futian noted to himself. Dark clouds hovered in the air as if the place harbored intense demonic aura. It did not come from someone's training. He cast his gaze far away, finding only a demonic cloud moving. But then he quickly corrected himself. It seemed that the entire sky was shrouded by demonic aura. Demonic clouds were all over the place, shrouding the entire demon metropolis. What happened? Futian mumbled to himself. He stepped out and headed to where Zhu Yan and the others were, feeling somewhat rattled deep down. What is with all that demonic aura? He thought. At that moment, Zhu Yan cast his gaze far away. His eyes seemed to have penetrated boundless space, making him capable of seeing the entire demon metropolis being covered in the powerful demonic aura. This demonic aura comes from Origin Mountain. Zhu Yan lowered his voice and said. The demon emperors by his side looked severe, as they all sensed something was off. They were surprised to find demonic aura from Origin Mountain about to shroud the entire demon metropolis. What is happening over there? They wondered. I've heard from the prophet that something big is about to happen in the demon realm. It seems like the prophecy is about to come true, Zhu Yan continued. He then turned around and shot a look at Futian. It seemed that Futian was the last person who had seen the prophet. He wondered if that actually meant anything. Probably not. He dared not speculate just how a human saint would be connected with the passing of the prophet. If he were to be indeed connected to the prophet's passing, he wondered just who Futian was. Something big is about to happen in the demon realm. Zhu Yan mumbled to himself and added, I'll be off. Take care of yourselves. He then flashed away, taking to the air, and leaving with the other demon emperors, leaving their offspring behind. The black-winged condor came high in the sky and guzzled up the demonic aura in a frenzy. "Hey bird," Futian called. The black-winged condor dived down and came before Futian, saying, "Master, the demonic aura is thick. Man, it feels so good." "Yeah." Futian nodded. Zhu Zhao came forth saying, "Let's get to Origin Mountain. Things are about to be shaken up." "Sure," Futian replied, and a group of people headed for the mountain. They were not the only ones. Countless monsters took to their air in all directions in the demon metropolis, dancing maniacally under the moon. They absorbed the demonic aura all over the place in a frenzy, feeling very at ease and relaxed. A huge demon rock zipped past in the sky, and dragons were roaring. It was the dance of the demons all over the place. There were also many human cultivators in the midst of the mighty demons, all over the realm. A group of mighty ones took to the sky at that moment. That group dazzled with a flash of lightning when they moved. They were clad in formidable might all over. They took a look at the demons who were in a frenzy, and one of them looked on with contempt. The demonic aura made them feel uncomfortable. There was news in their clan a while ago, saying that Gu Tianxing's steps were traced to the Origin Mountain. As such, many human cultivator forces of Heavenly Mandate Realm came as well. It seems like the news possibly holds true after all. Gu Tianxing might not have died all those years ago. A mighty one said with a cold voice. I wonder if the Shake of Origin Mountain has anything to do with Gu Tianxing. Who knows? All of them moved, and one of the legendary youth among them basked in divine lightning as he said in a low voice. I wonder where Zimo and the others are right now. Challenged and defeated by lone cultivators, putting us at the Heavenly Palace to shame. I'll have them locked up and training in isolation for years after we get back from this trip. If you find any errors, broken links, non-standard content, etc., please let us know so we can fix it as soon as possible. Countless monsters were found all over the sky, in a frenzy, in the demon metropolis. Countless monsters were found all over the sky, in a frenzy, in the demon metropolis. There were countless demon saints all over the place, while those from the Violet Heavenly Palace moved in the air. Human renhuangs are here in the demon realm, a demonic beast said not far away. The look in its eyes was pointed. The demonic beast spotted a renhuang. The Heavenly Mandate realm was divided into two areas with the realm markers, and both sides stayed out of each other's business. It was especially so with imperial-level beings, who were usually forbidden from stepping into the other party's territories. At present, a renhuang was stepping into demon realm territory. Worse still, they came to the core region of the realm, the demon metropolis. All eyes turned in their direction. That monster who spoke earlier sensed thunderous will of the great path in the eyes of the humans. It was as if it would pierce through its brain, causing that monster to shake all over. They are from the Violet Heavenly Palace, yet another monster asked. What are you people from the Violet Heavenly Palace doing here in the demon realm? Silence, a cold voice said. A mighty one from the Violet Heavenly Palace, who was at the forefront in the sky, had his hair billowing. His face was very angled, and his entire being exuded intense, overbearing will. Lightning coursed all over that man, as if he had been born like that. That man was so overbearing that thunder sounded as he moved. Thunder, a body of lightning, from the Violet Heavenly Palace. Many monsters who were in a hurry in the air turned to look at that young man. Their minds were all rattled, as they were reminded of someone told in legends. They were all training in the demon realm, and as such, they knew little about human cultivators in the Heavenly Mandate realm. But they had nonetheless heard of some of the humans, who were top figures from top forces. For instance, it was said that there was a man in Violet Heavenly Palace who had a supreme body of the Great Path, and was born with innate lightning powers. Thunderous noise was heard when he emanated his aura, so much so that he was capable of killing by merely walking around, making him a terrifying figure. He was lauded as the number one among the younger generations in the Violet Heavenly Palace, and was fostered to become the next Palace Lord. He was taken in as the personal student of the Palace Lord of the Violet Heavenly Palace, and he was given great importance. Many great monsters zipped past the mighty ones from the violet heavenly palace, as this thought welled up in their minds. They were, however, not worried that the Run Huang from the violet heavenly palace would do anything to harm them. Those from the violet heavenly palace would have only done so if they did not mind being ganged up on by the entire demon realm. They were the ones who broke the rules, making them incapable of simply acting out against any demonic beasts below the imperial level. It would stoke flames of anger all over the demon realm. I'm rather curious about just how powerful those few humans, known to have supreme bodies of the Great Path, actually are. A monster said and breathed fire at them, burning the sky. I'd like to try it out myself. Yet another monster flapped its wings, and terrifying lightning surged all over it. That creature was a lightning rock. Consider your wish granted. A voice was heard. That young man stepped out. Rumbling noises sounded, those few monsters' eardrums to rattle. The young man was then extended his hand, and there seemed to be a huge image appearing in the sky. It was a diagram of lightning, and 8 bolts of lightning rained down from above, shrouding the entire place. The lightning matrix of doomsday. The monsters were perceptive enough to tell, and intended to evade it right away. However, the beams of lightning coming down placed a lockdown on their surroundings. Countless bolts of lightning rained down throughout that vast space, which then turned into a huge screen of light. There were demonic beasts intending to burst outside, but shrieks were soon heard, and blood was spilled. There were even demonic beasts whose claws were sheared off by that screen of light. Down! That young man uttered a single word, and 8 different bolts of lightning rained down all over him, blasting every single one of the monsters caught in the area in an instant. They were unable to evade the attack, and had to resist it head-on. Shrieks were continuously heard. One monster after another was either bloodied or charred. The scene looked extremely harrowing. That young man shot a plain look at them, before continuing forward. Demonic beasts before him moved out of his way, and no longer dared to stop him. Their eyes were filled with anger and resentment, but there was also a faint hint of fear as well. That supreme body of the great path of that man from the violet heavenly palace was terrifyingly powerful indeed. Despite being an unblemished saint, that one great attack from him made everyone sense killing might of holiness of nirvana level. That man was born with a body of lightning, and it was a supreme body of lightning. A group of women clad in white was traveling in the air in another corner of the demon metropolis. Despite being under the dark of night, they were very eye-catching. Countless monsters looked in their direction. Their white garb billowed in the air, making them look like fairies and goddesses. Moonlight shone on their faces, which made them dazzling enough to cause others to forget what they were doing, and they looked like perfect illustrations. It was especially so with one of them. Her face was so perfect and flawless that she was stiflingly pretty. However, the arrogant, cold look in her eyes made her look somewhat unapproachable. Other than that, they emanated imperial-level might. Some of those beautiful women were Runhuang-level beings. Cultivators from Brahma's pure sky. They attracted countless monsters. Human cultivators of such unparalleled bearing could have only been those from Brahma's pure sky. Is a Jyotian goddess among them then? They wondered. They wondered just how many Jyotian goddesses were among them. So, you're here too, Shintian goddess. A figure was seen not far away. One of the goddesses turned around and saw a group of people wearing robes. They looked dashing as they blitzed in the air, coming near the ones who came first. So you all are here as well. The Shintian goddess turned around to look at those who were dressed in robes and quipped. She was definitely able to tell who those people were. Mighty ones from the celestial gate of vast heaven. The commotion was indeed huge. Gu Tianxing was traced to be at Origin Mountains, and the ones who were most aware of it were those from either the Heavenly Mandate Dynasty or the Celestial Gate of Vast Heaven. The ones from the Heavenly Mandate Dynasty were sworn enemies of Gu Tianxing, while the ones from the Celestial Gate of Vast Heaven were only there because Gu Tianxing was there. Those two forces would not miss the chance to travel to Origin Mountains. How about you join us, goddess? A mighty one from the Celestial Gate of Vast Heaven said. Mighty ones from both sides hovered in front, heading towards the mountain together. Both parties were moving at blitzing speeds, crossing through vast distances in a matter of moments. Yi Futian, and the others were heading towards the Origin Mountains as well. The peak that Zhu Yan taken them to had not been too far away from Origin Mountains after all. It was evident that Zhu Yan had plans regarding the matter. It turned that Zhu Yan was not the only one, as many powerful beings were all behaving as such. The entire demon metropolis was only roused when demonic aura permeated the entire demon metropolis. Every single mighty one headed towards the mountain at the same time. It was truly the dance of the demons all over the place. Read more chapter on novel full. Things are getting rocky indeed. The black wind condor continued to suck in the demonic aura all around it while it was in flight. It scanned its surroundings and was in awe that the place was filled with monsters. Things were really about to get messy. Hordes of demons moved out, with the demon saints all heading towards the forbidden land that was the Origin Mountains. No one knew what actually happened there, but the demonic aura was very enticing to demonic beasts nonetheless. Furthermore, myths regarding the Origin Mountains had always been nothing short of legendary. As such, that terrifying scene at the moment happened, and the entire demon metropolis was shaken. As time passed, light was seen in the sky. The night was over, but the sun had yet to rise. Demonic clouds shrouded the entire place. It was as if the whole place had been covered by one giant dark cloud. The mighty ones came to the external fringes of Origin Mountains one after another, casting their gaze at the boundless mountain. Noise was heard all over the place. Things were utterly chaotic outside the mountains, as countless mighty ones showed up. By the time Yi Futian and the others had gotten there, countless monsters had gathered outside Origin Mountains. There were also many human cultivators found all around. The mighty ones looked ahead of them, and found the mountains to be as peaceful as they had always been. It was as if it would stay this way, dead, and hardly anyone to be found. However, in the sky far above Origin Mountains, people were vaguely able to see a terrifying dark vortex with towering demonic aura. Just what the hell is happening? They thought. Many demonic beasts' eyes remained pointed, wanting very badly to charge into that area. However, their logical side told them that Origin Mountains were not a place they could easily step foot into. Countless demonic beasts were known to perish in there after all. Few spots emanated the most terrifying of auras. All demonic beasts in the areas they occupied simply stayed there quietly, not daring to even yelp. For instance, there was a clan of very formidable demons in an area, and all mighty ones in that area felt stifling pressure all around them. It's the divine elephants. Zhu Zhao then reminded Yi Futian, who was at his side. The divine elephants were still top-notch demons found throughout the demon realm. Their powers were extremely formidable, and they were frighteningly overbearing. Their sheer power was unmatched, enabling them to pin down a great path over a huge area. Of course, the divine elephants once obeyed the orders of the divine elephant emperor of 10 directions. Yi Futian thought to himself, wondering what they would have done if they found out that he had internalized a bone of the divine elephant emperor of 10 directions. Those over there are the purple gold rats, Zhu Zhao introduced as he pointed in yet another direction. Rats? Yi Futian looked somewhat surprised as he looked in that direction. He saw that all monsters had taken a human form, yet, all of them looked extremely ugly. Their eyes were so small that they looked shifty. However, a purple golden sheen was all over their bodies, making them look incredibly noble. Indeed, Zhu Zhao nodded. Rat demons are originally very weak demons. However, many years ago, one tremendously powerful rat demon emerged in the ranks of the purple gold rats, and that being was lauded to be extremely legendary. It was said that that particular demon had always been submissive to other demons, yet it actually ate countless treasures and enhanced its foundation. Furthermore, that rat was extremely cunning and hardworking, as well as extremely proficient in concealment. It then consumed several monsters and grew in strength, emerging as one of the top demon emperors from being lowly rats. That rat called itself a divine rat, and brought the rats to where they are presently. Yi Futian nodded deep down. Innate abilities of demonic beasts played a huge factor in their growth. Being able to rise like that was indeed legendary. Best not mess with the rat demons. While they are indeed very capable now, they still feel inferior deep down. They behave in an extremely prideful way and are bloodthirsty. Get on their bad side, and you can start counting your troubles. Zhu Zhao went out of his way to remind Yi Futian telepathically. Seems like human cultivators are almost all here too. Zhu Zhao cast his gaze further away, and Yi Futian looked in the same direction. He quickly caught sight of the extremely dazzling Xiantian goddess bringing many from Brahman's pure sky, and they looked extremely exceptional. They seemed like they were the only beings left in the world, simply standing around and doing nothing. Yi Futian felt a sense of loss, and his heart ached somewhat at the sight of those women. He turned his eyes away from them and looked elsewhere. Those from the Violet Heavenly Palace were there as well. There were also some other top-notch forces present. The human cultivators had indeed fielded their top figures. If you find any errors, broken links, non-standard content, etc., please let us know so we can fix it as soon as possible. There seemed to be extremely scorching divine fire coming down from above. Countless mighty ones looked up and saw a dazzling scene high up in the sky. One dazzling monster after another descended from above. Among them were golden ravens, peacocks, phoenixes, kunpangs, and other formidable demonic races. All of the mighty ones from the demonic races sported solemn looks, and they looked at the mighty ones that came. The Sky Demon Court. Zhu Zhao then said telepathically to Yi Futian. Back in that awestruck battle in ancient times, human and demon cultivators fought a great, harrowing battle. The demons began to form alliances in order to resist the humans, but the kings of the flying creatures in the sky formed the toughest of alliances. Under the leadership of the Golden Raven Saint Emperor, the Peacock Saint Emperor, the Phoenix Ancestral Emperor, the Kunping Demonic Master, Golden Wing Rock Emperor, and many other top-notch beings allied themselves and reigned over the flying beasts of the demon realm, establishing the Sky Demon Court, and creating the most powerful of demonic armies to resist humans. Even today, the Sky Demon Court remained at the very top of the demon realm. Zhu Zhao then continued, but there seems to be a schism within the Sky Demon Court. At present, the Golden Raven Saint Emperor and the Kunping Emperor are at odds with each other. The Kunping Emperor was extremely prideful and refused to take orders from anyone. The Golden Raven Saint Raven liked being alone too. The 9-headed phoenixes were not accepted by the phoenixes as well. Yi Futian nodded deep down. All of those demonic races were of top-tier talents among the demons. While their alliances might not have been all that powerful, they would have reigned supreme in the demon realm. Furthermore, infighting was normal. All of them formed an alliance due to having to fight an external enemy, after all. It was even considered quite a miracle that the Sky Demon Court was able to stay intact for that many years. Father, Kong Xian, who was at Yi Futian's side, called. The Demon Peacock Emperor was among the mighty ones from the Sky Demon Court as well, standing beside another peacock monster. They had relatives in the demon realm, and the Emperor had been there to pay a visit to them before. Come over here, Kong Xian, the Demon Peacock Emperor called at that moment. Kong Xian took to the sky and headed straight for the place where the monsters of the Sky Demon Court in the air were. Seems like your friend has a chance of becoming part of the Sky Demon Court, Zhu Zhao said. Kong Xian was seen greeting the demon emperors high up in the sky. This is frightening. The black-winged condor at Yi Futian's side shirked its brains, surprised at just how formidable Kong Xian's background was. The bird deemed that the princess was not to be messed with. Princess Qingyuan, I'm rather concerned for you. The black-winged condor looked at Xia Qingyuan at the side and said. When the backgrounds of both women were compared, Xia Qingyuan would indeed lose. Shut up. Yi Futian knocked the bird's head hard. Why are you around human cultivators? A young peacock demon saint took a look at Yi Futian and the others below, then asked Kong Xian. Peacocks were inherently prideful, and they were rather displeased to see Kong Xian mingling with humans. They are my friends, Kong Xian answered. Yi Futian is an extraordinary young cultivator, and those people around him are indeed good people, the Demon Peacock Emperor added. Many of the monsters in the Sky Demon Court took a look at Yi Futian, and that was all. Yi Futian took notice of how the monsters' eyes. They looked composed and were hardly fettered. The demons and humans in the heavenly mandate realm carved their own territories and trained in their respective places. So it was only a given that both parties were not on good terms. What are we still staying around here for? We're already here, aren't we? Just get into the Origin Mountains then. Let the demon emperors take the lead, just so the others won't get in trouble. A booming voice was heard. A group of true dragons appeared high up in the air, looking majestic. The true dragons were composed of many dragon races, and all of them were in their true form. The scene in the air was frightening, as dragons of over 1,000 meters, one after another, were circling in the sky. That scene was indeed awe-inspiring. The dragon gods, again a top-notch race in the demon realm, Zhu Zhao added. The dragon gods gathered many mighty dragons around, and things looked terrifying. Their powers, in general, would have allowed them to take on the Sky Demon Court by force. The one who spoke asked for the demon emperors to proceed before the others, because things with Origin Mountains were special. If everyone were to venture inside at the same time, the demon emperors would probably bring bad luck and disaster to the other demonic beasts below the imperial plane. Let's go. A figure emerged, and all demon emperors took to the skies, stepping inside the Origin Mountains. Yi Futian's mind rattled as he looked at the emperors before him. It seemed that over half of the top-notch forces all over the demon realm had gathered there. Other than that, there were also many top-notch human cultivators in heavenly mandate realm gathering at the mountains. It was a testament to just how great that commotion with the Origin Mountains had been. Let's go. The demon and human cultivators below the imperial plane flashed one after another, moving forward from all sides, venturing into the Origin Mountains. Demonic clouds shrouded the sky above the mountains. The scene with over 10,000 demons moving in the same direction was awe-inspiring. The mighty ones from Yingzhou Mountain scanned around and locked their eyes on Yi Futian and Zhu Zhao. All of them sported a cold expression. That demon bone was probably in Zhu Yan's possession. That emperor's absence meant that he was probably already in the mountains, and taking that bone would be difficult. There was also another extremely alluring woman among the mighty ones from Yingzhou Mountain. It was none other than Hu Qian of Celestial Fox Palace. She moved alongside with the mighty ones from Yingzhou Mountain. Mighty ones from the Violet Heavenly Palace gathered in another direction, led by someone who seemed to have divine lightning coursing all over him, making it so that the figure was training all the time with the might of the Great Path tempering his body at all times. That man was named Zhan Yuan. He was someone with the supreme body of the Great Path in the Violet Heavenly Palace, and was an unblemished saint. He was a leading figure of his generation, and a personal student of the Palace Lord of the Violet Heavenly Palace. Zhan Yuan took a look at the ones beside him and asked, "Who was the one in that battle back then?" Tan Zimo and the other mighty ones searched the crowd, and found someone far away after a while. His eyes were locked on Yi Futian. Zhan Yuan traced the direction where their eyes were looking, then found Yi Futian and his people. Those who were with Yi Futian seemed to have sensed the look they had got, turning their eyes around in a single direction, as well before catching sight of Zhan Yuan and the others. Yi Futian seemed to have seen a pair of eyes of a thunder god within an instant. It was as if he was dragged into a world of lightning and thunder in that instant, dealing heavy impact on his spiritual will. Boom! Lightning coursed throughout Yi Futian's body. His eyes became very pointed in an instant. His hair billowed, and he felt an extremely dangerous aura about to befall him. Zhu Zhao, who was at his side, turned around to look in that direction as well, looking very defensive, about to fight someone powerful. He too felt an immense sense of crisis, and that cultivator who was looking at them was indeed powerful. Formidable sword will surged throughout Yaya's body, which was then directed at the other party. It was obvious that the might of the great path of the other party was not directed only at any one person. He was directing his might at many at the same time. The feeling lasted for little more than an instant. The supreme body of the great path of the Violet Heavenly Palace, Zhu Zhao muttered, and Yi Futian's eyes remained directed at the other side. He heard of that before, wondering if that person was indeed one with the supreme body of lightning at the Violet Heavenly Palace. When we get back to the Heavenly Palace, you all are to dedicate yourselves to training for the next several years, and are not allowed to venture elsewhere. Zhang Yuan turned his eyes around and said to Tan Zimo and the others. All of them looked rather glum after being told that, but they all nodded without objection. In Zhang Yuan's current generation in the Violet Heavenly Palace, his words were taken as those of the palace lords. Let's go. Zhang Yuan did not do anything against Yi Futian and the others. That one look he shot at those people allowed him to have a rough idea of what they were like. With the exception of the few holiness of nirvanas in their midst, everyone else was of no threat to him. Taking them out at such a place was utterly pointless. He deemed that the Violet Heavenly Palace had not stooped so low as to cling on a group of lone cultivators. Let's go, Yi Futian then said. He was getting ready to leave when Kong Xian flashed and came to their side. The mighty ones in the Sky Demon Court in the sky looked at her. One of the Peacock Demon Saints asked, "You are with them?" "Indeed. We've been together all along," Kong Xian acknowledged with a nod. Other human cultivators are venturing inside the origin mountains of the demon realm as well. If you are to go with them, be careful on your own, the other party said in a prideful tone before leaving. The monsters of the Sky Demon Court flashed as well at great speeds, overtaking one demon beast after another. Yi Futian and the others took to the air and stepped into the origin mountains. There was a flat hill before them. It looked vast and almost endless. They had no idea where it ended. They proceeded forward without any hiccups. The terrain was getting increasingly high. It was as if they were to enter the sky above. The demonic aura high in the air was getting increasingly powerful as well. Many of the monsters absorbed those demonic aurae in a frenzy and internalized them. That area was the entry to the origin mountains. The true place of origin lay beyond where they were now. Yi Futian finally came to the peak of the hill after a while, gazing at the ridges before them. The place high in the sky felt dead, with black crows circling about, and an aura of death permeated the place. Vroom! A group of black crows suddenly dove down at the mighty ones at the very forefront. Many monsters and humans unleashed their aura to resist the attack. Some monsters were swallowed whole by the crows, and the scene was extremely harrowing. However, there were also terrifying mighty ones who managed to repel the crows. For instance, those from the Violet Heavenly Palace. The lightning matrix of Doomsday made it so that the crows simply dissipated before they were able to get near. The mighty ones from the Sky Demon Court were not having a hard time either. Golden divine fires burned the skies around them, making it impossible for the crows to get near. The divine elephants trumpeted and stomped on the ground. The crows were killed and shredded in the sky before they were even able to get near, making the elephants extremely terrifying. Yi Futian and those around him moved forward as well. Yaya took the lead and held her sword in the air. Boundless sword will circled about her and swept out. Crows were diving at them, and the crows all sported terrifying demonic aura, but all were immediately destroyed by the sword will. Wu Yong and the other holiness of nirvanas at Yi Futian's side burst into flames, burning those crows away. All of the mighty ones moved forward. They were only at the beginning on the trip into the origin mountains. Terrifying demonic clouds emerged from the depths of the origin mountains at the moment. A storm conjured by a huge demonic cloud in the air circled about. Boundless might of demons seemed to have gathered around. There was vaguely a spectral being seen in that frightening storm, but the being looked rather blurry, and no one was able to make out their face. There was also another figure, who was at the peak of the skyscraping mountain below. That figure was dressed in white, and looked very dashing. The elegant, refined bearing of a scholar was felt from him. There was also dazzling godly light emanating from him. Other than that, it seemed that he had also been affected by the demonic aura, giving him a hint of feral grace as well. If you find any errors, broken links, non-standard content, etc., please let us know so we can fix it as soon as possible. As more and more mighty ones were stepping into the origin mountains, everyone gradually spread out and headed in different directions. As more and more mighty ones were stepping into the origin mountains, everyone gradually spread out and headed in different directions. The origin mountains were so vast that even with countless monsters inside, it was nonetheless easy to spread out into isolated pockets. However, The fact that there were monsters found in every single direction as they moved forward remained. Yi Futian and the others around him felt all the other mighty ones distancing themselves from one another. The crows gradually disappeared as they moved forward, yet the demonic aura about became even thicker. Furthermore, the entire barren mountain seemed to be shrouded by some mysterious powers, giving off a faint stifling feeling. That pressure was something challenging to put in words, but it was something that made people feel uncomfortable. Be in the sky or on the ground, or even just in the air around, that faint sense of pressure seemed to be everywhere, prompting all the mighty ones to be on guard. However, there seemed to be little danger in the external regions. The aura of the Origin Mountains feels stifling, Xia Qingyuan quipped. She felt slightly uncomfortable, but was unable to tell where her body was feeling uncomfortable. Mentally speaking, it was a feeling that she was unable to place. Same with me. Yi Futian nodded. Best be careful. He wondered if Gu Tianxing were really still alive. Why had he brought his third brother to the Origin Mountains? It was said there had once been an out-of-this-world battle here. Many demon emperors and renhuangs perished, and their blood was spilled everywhere. Their frustration and resentment latched onto the place as a whole, forming into an aura that will never dissipate from the Origin Mountains, causing many inexplicable, unreasonable dangers to lurk all over the place. It is completely normal to feel stifled here. The princess of the feathered men explained to Xia Qingyuan, and she nodded to the demon princess in return. Those from Celestial Fox Palace would know more about the place. That Hu Qian is a virgin-like figure in Celestial Fox Palace, and it should be a lot safer staying around her. Yi Futian cast his gaze forward. Mighty ones from Yingzhou Mountain were moving forward at very high speeds, making it seem like they were beams of silver light. Hu Qian of Celestial Fox Palace traveled into the Origin Mountains alongside those from Yingzhou Mountain on that trip. Good idea. Zhu Zhao nodded, and then followed right behind them. All of them sped up, moving right behind those from Yingzhou Mountain. Yi Futian and his people were not the only ones to do so. In truth, many demons were doing so right after they stepped into the Origin Mountains. They followed right behind those from top-notch forces, forming huge groups as they moved into the depths of the mountains. They came to deeper regions of the mountains as time passed. There seemed to be a canyon right before them all, and the mighty ones from Yingzhou Mountain stopped. They were not the only ones to do so. Many mighty ones slowed down and eventually stopped. However, there were even more mighty ones who continued forward. Look out! Lei Meng's voice was thundering as he spoke. Everyone wondered if those from Celestial Fox Palace had sensed any danger. Wind blew, and shrilled noises were heard from the canyon. The noises sounded like drums and howls. While the noise was not very loud, they were quite unpleasant to the ear. The noise traveled with the wind, and the noises continued to sound like wails. Yi Futian felt his eardrums ringing. The pointed winds traveled with those weird noises, and made him feel as if his mind was under attack. It was very uncomfortable. Seems like we've gotten somewhere dangerous, Zhu Zhao said. At the same time, many throughout the vast space stopped, looking ahead while on high alert. That shrilled howl emanating from the canyon ahead made all of them feel uneasy. Can we take a detour? A monster from Yingzhou Mountain asked Hu Qian at that moment. Hu Qian shook her head and answered, "That is the Canyon of Death, and we need to pass through it. Furthermore, we can't cause too much of a commotion while doing so. From what I've read in Celestial Fox Palace's records, the more high-profiled one is in the Canyon of Death. The easier one will end up dead." A group of mighty ones took to the air right before them, as soon as she finished. Those people were trying to pass through the canyon from above, making their way to the other side. Boom! A bolt of black lightning streaked right before everyone's eyes. Its speed was so fast that it looked like a mirage. It was something that the naked eye had difficult tracking. That mirage shot up to the sky and swept all of the mighty ones taking to the air away in an instant, giving them no chance even to attempt to escape. All of them were caught. Those mighty ones who were caught were flabbergasted. Powerful might of the great path was cast, but it was of little use. That thing that captured them pulled back in an instant, backing away into the canyon while breaking them down bit by bit. That group in the sky all disappeared within mere moments, leaving behind some blood. Well, the minds of many raced, feeling terrified. The eyes of many mighty ones even looked different by then. Some speed indeed. Yi Futian's pupils contracted. Is that a vine from a tree? Be careful. It's the demon-eating tree. Some demon fox from the Celestial Fox Palace said. Many mighty ones from the Celestial Fox Palace were invited by all manner of forces to embark on the trip into the Origin Mountains. How should we make it through? Some mighty ones asked the demon fox from the Celestial Fox Palace. We need to walk past, but we need to be careful. Do not cause a scene. The mighty one from the Celestial Fox Palace said to the crowd. More and more mighty ones came to that place. The shrill noises remained, and they slowed down as they walked, but their ears felt even more pained. Walking right through the canyon? Some demonic beast felt rather doubtful. Indeed. You have a death wish or something? Some mighty ones snickered sarcastically and shot upwards, reaching so high that they almost entered the clouds, zipping forward from above. Zoom. The dark bolt of lightning shot to the clouds, as if it was able to ignore distance altogether. No. Shouts were here high up in the air. That black lightning pulled that someone down, and they disappeared in the canyon. Many extended their will to probe the inside of the canyon, but quickly found that their will was blocked by some invisible force. Can we only get through by passing through the canyon? They thought. Many mighty ones frowned. At that moment, a group of mighty ones burst with dazzling brilliance. Everyone turned around and saw mighty ones among the purple gold rats taking their original form. Bolts of golden lightning zipped past, and they burrowed underground, disappearing in an instant. Wah! Many sported peculiar expressions at that scene. While it was true that the purple gold rats had already become a race of demons at the pinnacle of the demon realm, they still were unable to get rid of that habit of being rats. Let's go! A group of mighty ones, who were of the dragons, took the lead. They stepped forward and headed to the edges. They scanned the canyon for a bit, and then dove down. The monsters of the Sky Demon Court followed suit. Let's head out, Yi Futian said and began walking. The shrilled noises became increasingly annoying as they moved forward, making them feel very restless. They came to the edge of the canyon and looked down into the deep canyon. One dark ancient tree after another swayed, guzzling the aura all about them. Be careful. Try your best not to unleash your aura. A mighty one from the Celestial Fox Palace reminded. Everyone concealed their aura and walked slowly to the canyon. The ground of the canyon looked as if a grand battle had once been fought there, as the ground was cut up into pieces. The shrilled noises became even more intense. Xiaqing Yuan closed her eyes, feeling extremely uneasy. Was this a battlefield? Yi Futian asked in a low voice. The chaotic auras and shrill wails seemed to contain the will of the great path of countless hateful souls. Boom! At that moment, one of the dark ancient trees in the canyon grew all of a sudden, lashing out in all directions. Many mighty ones were gobbled up in an instant, and that tree gradually consumed them. Move! Many of the monsters were shocked and terrified by what just happened, running forward in a frenzy. Swishing sounds were heard as countless ancient trees ran amok, spreading out in all directions. Quick! The monsters everywhere became frenzied as they sped up and charged forward. However, those trees seemed to be even faster. One would have ended up being gobbled up as soon as they got tangled. Countless demonic beasts perished in the canyon within mere moments. Their blood stained the ground red, which was then consumed by the ground of the Black Canyon. Move already! The expression of a mighty one from the Celestial Fox Palace changed. There were simply too many demonic beasts getting into the canyon, making the situation utterly uncontrollable. Things at the moment seemed to have changed entirely. One dark ancient tree after another seemed to have sprouted from the black ground of death, and the trees continued to grow in size. They gobbled up the demonic aura all around them before attacking and consuming the demonic beasts and human cultivators to fuel their growth. A dark ancient tree grew in a frenzy at the center of the canyon and had gotten increasingly huge, shooting up to the skies. Its leaves and vines shot to great distances, intending to envelope the entire canyon, looking like a dark, divine tree. That dark tree swayed, and destructive dark aura seemed to have emerged in the canyon, which seeped inside the mighty one's bodies right away. What the hell is this? Yi Futian and the others around him sped up as they moved. There was no way they could have avoided running in such a situation. Things are going south, let's move. Zhu Yan's face turned glum. A rumbling was heard from the ground, and cracks formed in the canyon. Boundless dark aura permeated the canyon and swept at all of them. The dark aura seeped into the bodies of the mighty ones, killing them on the spot, and filling the place with death in an instant. Qi Xinggang burst his aura, and turned it into a dazzling screen, circling those around him. He said, "There was a very formidable someone proficient in deathly powers that perished here. That someone had their power of the great path seep into the soil after death. Right now, all of this is probably something conjured by their will of the great path. Look out!" Terrifying dark aura swept at them at the moment. Qi Xinggang waved his hand about, and might of great path burst from within him, destroying much of the invading aura. However, the aura seemed to be endless and capable of permeating into anything and anywhere as it moved in the crowd's direction. Yi Futian burst with divine flames all over, which burned all the dark aura coming near him, reducing it to nothing. There were also several holiness of nirvanas who stood by his side to guard him. Yusheng took to the air, and when he saw those auras coming at him, he extended his hand and conjured a terrifying whirlpool, devouring the aura instead. The dark aura seeping inside his body caused dark streaks to appear all over his body. Rumbling noise was heard from his body, and his expression continued to change as he did so. However, his hand remained extended forward, continuing to devour that dark aura and internalizing it. If you find any errors, broken links, non-standard content, etc., please let us know so we can fix it as soon as possible. Yi Futian took a look at Yusheng, thinking that the latter's methods of cultivation and constitutional fortitude were indeed overbearing. Yi Futian took a look at Yusheng, thinking that the latter's methods of cultivation and constitutional fortitude were indeed overbearing. Yi Futian was surprised by how Yusheng was able to ignore the deathly aura and simply devoured it, making it his own. While the aura had still affected him, it was unable to pose an actual threat to him. One mighty one after another hurried as they moved forward, all of them using their own ways to resist the attacks faced. Zhan Yuan of the Violet Heavenly Palace took to their air, utterly terrifying lightning matrix of doomsday appearing above. 8 divine bolts of lightning rained from the matrix, covering a huge area and destroying everything in its path, making it impossible for the deathly aura to come close. The other mighty ones of the Violet Heavenly Palace raised their hands at the same time. Boundless might of lightning surged into that matrix, making it even more powerful, enabling it to sweep away all auras around them. "Beware of that tree," Zhan Yuan said. That tree, which was still growing, had gotten so big, it blocked out the sky and spread everywhere. It spread deathly aura all over the place, and its attacks killed many cultivators, monsters, and humans. Those people were then consumed by the tree to serve as nutrients to further its growth. Many mighty ones continued to speed up, intending to pass through that seemingly endless canyon of death. It was no surprise why the Origin Mountains had always been seen as a restricted area. Demonic beasts dared not step foot inside, and even demon emperors were all fearful of the place. Years passed, and possibly due to the lack of large-scale expeditions into the Origin Mountains, the fear and reverence they had for the place weakened. That, coupled with the matter with Gu Tianxing, and that terrifying demonic cloud at the Origin Mountains, brought about that massive expedition. At that moment, many mighty ones, however, began to regret coming. They thought it would have been better to just let the ones at the top fight for whatever was inside. They didn't need to have anything to do with it. The terrifying trumpeting of elephants sounded in the sky. The resulting rumble rattled everyone's eardrums within earshot. Everyone looked up and saw a group of divine elephants taking their original forms high up in the air, stomping the sky as they moved. They dazzled with golden light all over, looking brilliant. Every single step they took seemed to be able to overwhelm everything around them. That deathly aura of the great path, and the branches were all pinned down, incapable of breaking through. While the elephants looked like they were advancing slowly, They were actually beginning to overtake the other mighty ones. Yi Futian and those around him unleashed their auras as well. He burst with flames of the way as well as dazzling sword will. Xiaqing Yuan, who was at his side, burst with catastrophe swordsmanship, which paired with her lotus powers, making her look unceasingly powerful. That dark, deathly aura in the air seemed to have sensed something, and went on to lash out at Xiaqing Yuan. However, most of those attacks were eliminated by the holiness of nirvanas around her. Swaying sounds were heard, and branches of one deathly tree after another headed their way in increasingly huge numbers. Worse still, countless deathly auras in the sky surged where they were. Even auras attacking the others had all surged towards Xiaqing Yuan in a frenzy. What is going on here? Yi Futian frowned slightly. Qi Xiangang stepped forward and lifted his arm, crushing everything before him. However, the branches and auras still came from all sides, even evading him to get to the princess. The immense tree of death seemed to have sensed something as well. One huge branch after another shot in her direction. "Look out!" Qi Xiangang shouted. He stepped forward, and terrifying rings of light appeared around him, blocking those branches. However, the branches simply enveloped him, paying no heed to how many vines he ended up destroying, as they continued to lash out at the target behind him. "Protect the princes!" Yi Futian's expression changed drastically. All mighty ones came to Xiaqing Yuan's side, resisting all the incoming attacks. Boom, boom, boom. The furious attacks clashed as the branches continued to sweep out, attacking all of them. Those deathly auras were everywhere, seeping through the cracks and crevices between their bodies, heading towards Xiaqing Yuan. "Flames!" Yi Futian shouted. Wu Yong and the other holiness of nirvanas burst with dazzling divine flames at the same time, burning their surroundings, but the deathly auras sneaked through the flames nonetheless. Xiaqing Yuan, who was surrounded by a huge group of people, appeared rather pale. The might of her catastrophe swordsmanship burst to the extreme, cutting down all those currents that seeped through. Dazzling, saintly lotuses wrapped around her, preventing the invasion of the auras. Crack! The branches pierced through the screens of light of the lotuses. Dark auras seeped into her body, causing her pure saintly body to be tainted with a layer of dark aura. The power of life continued to be cranked to the extreme as she continued to wipe out those dark auras. Yet the deathly aura seemed to be utterly boundless and very attracted to her body. Death and life. The will of the great path of life. Yi Futian seemed to have realized something and said, "Pull your powers back." Too late for that. Xiaqing Yuan took a look at Yi Futian. If she were to pull her powers away now, death would have consumed her right away. Her power of life was the only thing keeping the deathly attacks at bay. She had no way of escape. What is happening? The mighty ones around that group looked on with baffled looks. The auras that attacked them disappeared all of a sudden, and were directed at one particular direction. They turned around and saw countless ancient tree branches and deathly auras surging towards Xiaqing Yuan. Qi Xiangang had his hands full at the moment with the huge tree of death. All of the holiness of nirvanas around them burst with divine flames in a frenzy, preventing the attacks from getting to Xiaqing Yuan. Boom! The ground cracked open right there and then, with dark branches breaking out of the ground and getting to Xiaqing Yuan right away, tangling her up as if they were out to suck that brimming life force out of her. Yi Futian stepped out. That fire spirit orb in his life palace burst with terrifying flames of the way. His body transformed and engulfed by boundless flames in an instant. He turned into a fiery god of war. He charged while basking in flames. Countless fiery arms grabbed at the dark branches tangling with Xiaqing Yuan, burning them down right away. However, the deathly auras all around them continued to invade her body. Streaks of deathly aura appeared on her face, making her look ashen. She turned her eyes, which looked rather sad, at Yi Futian. She wondered if she would die in this forbidden area. The Origin Mountains were known as a restricted area in the demon realm. Yi Futian seemed to have sensed the sorrow emanating from Xiaqing Yuan. He began to regret bringing her into the mountains. She would have insisted on coming even if he were to refuse, but he felt responsible and was blaming himself for what happened. Boom! Terrifying might of the great path burst from within Xiaqing Yuan, as if imperial might was being unleashed. All the deathly aura inside her body was wiped clean in an instant. Yi Futian was able to see Emperor Xia's visage appearing behind Xia Qingyuan. Emperor Xia. Yi Futian began to look hopeful. However, he quickly realized that the emperor was looking ahead, frowning hard with a glum expression. That huge tree made him feel uneasy. Boom! The vast, seemingly endless canyon trembled. Countless trees of death burst throughout the entire canyon. Terrifying will of death shrouded the vast, endless canyon. She's going to get us all killed. Wuxian of the Celestial Fox Palace among those from Yingzhou Mountain looked astounded as Xia Qingyuan brought a Renhuang will to bear. However, this was the Origin Mountains, where many demon emperors and Renhuangs were buried. According to the records, will of the great path that was trapped in the Origin Mountains would be attracted by powerful auras appearing there. A Renhuang might have invoked deathly will of greater intensity to bear on all of them. It would have probably really caused all of them to die in the canyon. That was also where the ones in Imperial Plains moved before everyone else, instead of venturing into the Origin Mountains together with them. The presence of the Imperial beings would have caused them all to end up dead, instead of being of any benefit. The canyon shook, and deathly will shrouded the entire place. Many figures' faces looked rather solemn. A figure gradually rose from that divine tree, as rumbles were heard continuously. What is that? Many turned their attention in that direction. Their minds continued to be rattled. Countless branches circled about with the tree in the middle. An incredibly huge figure appeared. That figure was clad in a black robe, and looked pitch black. Their long hair billowed while not even a hint of aura was sensed from them. Only boundless will of death. *T. The hearts of many raced as they wondered if that thing was some incredibly powerful being, who perished in the Origin Mountains. Despite having been dead for many years, that being had nonetheless remained capable of turning the canyon into a place of death. Furthermore, that being seemed to have clung to life desperately even after death, intending to consume any will of the living around. Is that thing trying to come back from the dead? Vroom. Emperor Xia brought Xia Qingyuan up, and shot into the air at blitzing speeds. However, countless branches of that tree of death continued to shoot to the skies, shrouding the air, seemingly about to devour the sky itself. Renhuang will burst, and the emperor burst with boundless light of catastrophe. He looked up and saw boundless vines coming at him. His face turned glum as he continued to move forward, saying, "Hurry up." His shadow burst with boundless light of catastrophe as he spoke. The branches that covered the sky were reduced to nothing in an instant. Countless ancient trees were cut down, and the terrifying light pressured that tree of death, trying to buy time for Xia Qingyuan. Xia Qingyuan turned, and continued to blitz forward. Boom! That will of the great path of Emperor Xia was disintegrated with a rumble, reduced to nothing. The branches of death shot up to the air in an instant, tangling Xia Qingyuan's body up, preventing her from moving. The will of life within her body and powers were being absorbed in a frenzy. Her body itself was taken to that figure that appeared on the tree of death. She is done for. Many muttered to themselves deep down. Even with the will of Renhuang being brought to bear, it still failed to keep her safe. Someone was seen bursting into the air, coming to Xia Qingyuan's side. Countless flaming arms grabbed at the branches of death, intending to burn them down, and preventing them from going forward. Xia Qingyuan looked up at that massive flaming body, while feeling the life slipping out of her at a frightening rate. It seemed that she was about to die for real. There was a handsome face seen in that huge flaming body. She looked at that face, and tears were found at the corner of her eyes. She was about to die with regret. Her lips twitched, intending to say something, but eventually, nothing came out. She seemed to have recalled something all of a sudden, and she smiled. That smile looked unbelievably beautiful at the very instant it flashed. It seemed as if it was meant to leave the most beautiful memory behind. Goodbye, Xia Qingyuan said softly as her body continued to be dragged down. There was simply no stopping her fall. There was no way Yi Futian could have stopped something that not even the will of Emperor Xia was unable to stop. Yi Futian felt heartache deep down. That scene triggered some horrible memories, the memories that pained him the most. You do look rather pretty when you smile, princess. You sure would look even prettier if you dressed in girls' clothes, Yi Futian replied. Xia Qingyuan was dumbfounded. Yi Futian then stepped forward and put that huge flaming body of his behind her. Flaming arms extended out and wrapped her up altogether. I won't take a goodbye from you before I get to see that, Yi Futian added. At that moment, that frail body of hers seemed to have been cradled by a fiery god of war. The flaming will was reflected on her face. Xia Qingyuan felt the warmth emanating from it, and she burst into tears. If you find any errors, broken links, non-standard content, etc., please let us know so we can fix it as soon as possible. Countless branches of death wrapped the fiery being up in the air, pulling it down like a bolt of black lightning. Countless branches of death wrapped the fiery being up in the air, pulling it down like a bolt of black lightning. Countless branches and vines quickly enveloped that being. The skyscraping tree wrapped them both up, seemingly out to swallow them whole. While many monsters and humans had experienced what just happened to Xia Qingyuan, nothing had been as shocking as what happened before them just now. That was because the tree went out of its way to eat that one particular being up, which gave many a breather, enabling them to escape by charging outside of the canyon. This is ridiculous, Tan Zimo of the Violet Heavenly Palace said after seeing what happened, wondering if it worth it dying for the sake of a woman. Yi Futian had pretty much flipped the Violet Heavenly Palace over with what he did. Despite being on opposing sides, they had to acknowledge that he was very formidable and was superbly talented. It was too bad that he had to die in such a manner. Virgin Genie of Brahma's pure sky sighed deeply as well. It was a pity that Yi Futian would die for a woman. While the sentiment was indeed respectable, she did not see the point of throwing one's life away because of it. Training was difficult. It would be more so if someone were to get to Yi Futian's current level. Qi Xiangang and all those around Yi Futian sported glum expression. There was no stopping it, and not even Emperor Xia would have been able to do anything. They stepped forward towards the tree of death. Qi Xiangang lashed out with both hands, shattering a great number of branches and vines outside, yet he was still unable to get through. Yaya took to the sky and had her sword in the air. Towering sword matrices appeared beneath her feet. Her expression was frosty as swords whooshed out of the sword matrix on her palm. However, like Qi Xiangang, she remained incapable of breaking through. The cut vines and branches simply regrew in an instant. She felt rather vexed and kept bringing her swords down continuously, but she remained incapable of making it through. Boom! The sound of swords zipping was heard. She charged inside the mass of branches and vines with her sword matrices. However, the will of the great path bound her immediately. She turned around and found Qi Xiangang behind her. Qi Xiangang shook his head at her and said, "His luck on this trip is incredible." Yaya was dumbfounded as she looked at Qi Xiangang. She knew that Qi Xiangang had some special ability, allowing her to peer into fate and luck. He had checked out Yi Futian's luck before all of them entered. Furthermore, she recalled the death of the prophet just a while ago. As such, it seemed that Yi Futian's luck was so formidable that he definitely would not just perish right there and then. She was rather relieved to find that, but she nonetheless remained anxious, keeping her eyes on the sight. Qi Xiangang stopped everyone else trying to get before him. While the older man had no idea what tricks Yi Futian had up his sleeves, he knew that student of his was someone exceptional. He would survive charging into a place like that. For the others, however, it would probably have been on a one-way trip. Yi Futian's body was tangled and buried by that tree of death. Boundless deathly aura and branches lashed out at him. He burst in terrifying might of the flames of the way, even utilizing the power of that fire spirit orb within his life palace, burning those deathly branches away in a frenzy. A terrifying fire zone appeared all around his body, and his eyes turned into flames. At that moment, that statue-like tall, imposing figure seemed to have manifested a great many arms, lashing out at Yi Futian, who was protecting Xia Qingyuan. It burst through the binding of the will of flames and headed towards Xia Qingyuan. It was evident that despite having been dead for so many years, that figure clung to life still nonetheless. Boom! Yi Futian's eyes burned. Terrifying branches burst from him, Green wool shrouded the place all of a sudden, swishing out as they moved. The divine tree of life within his life contained boundless life. If you want the power of life that badly, then come and take it. Futian's eyes were cold. Those branches sensed it all in an instant, and charged at Futian in a frenzy. Boundless deathly aura burst into his body. The deathly vines stabbed into his world tree, intending to drain all that will of life in Futian's life spirit in a frenzy. The world tree swayed, and boundless divine light burst. When the will of death came upon him, it seemed to have ended up assimilated and devoured, as if it had been merged inside his life spirit. Xiaqing Yuan, who was being protected by Futian, was shocked at that scene. She had given in to despair before, and there was no longer sorrow in her. She thought both of them would have ended up devoured. Yet, she saw that it was Futian's life spirit devouring the will of death from that tree of death instead. That is probably his primary life spirit, Xiaqing Yuan muttered to herself. It was as if there was a divine tree fighting against another divine tree. That deathly aura was absorbed into Futian's body, and he devoured even the branches as they surged into his body. That tree of death seemed to be alive, sending more branches at him. Furthermore, the canyon trembled violently at that moment. More branches of death burst from the bottom of the canyon, heading towards that region. That scene was very shocking. What is going on? Some who were leaving stopped at that scene. They turned around to get a better look, and found countless branches from the canyon beneath them, heading towards a single direction. Is he still alive? They were shocked deep down. They found what was happening to be utterly impossible. It was something that not even the will of Ren Huang had been able to resist. Both Futian and Xiaqing Yuan were just saints, and there was no way they could have survived being buried by that tree of death. Zhan Yuan of the supreme body of the Great Path from the Violet Heavenly Palace halted and looked in that direction. He did not continue moving forward, but instead kept his eyes locked there. Are we sticking around? Some at his side asked. We'll check out for a little bit longer, Zhan Yuan replied. Many people of top-notch forces stopped. A terrifying nine-headed phoenix in the air devoured the deathly auras in a frenzy. Its eyes were cold and giving off a violent, unruly aura. The 9 heads of that phoenix made it look even more cold and unforgiving. The 9-headed phoenixes had been a branch of the phoenixes, yet they were seen as outcasts. However, some of terrifying powers had emerged from their ranks, and they were taken into the Sky Demon Court. They were extremely formidable, and had always been at odds with the phoenixes. At that moment, that 9-headed phoenix's eyes glared at that space that was being buried. The will of death was so thick that if it were to swallow it all, it would have done a lot of good. Furthermore, if it could gain the remains of that ancient Ren Huang that looked like an imposing statue, things would have even been more perfect. It was a pity that it would not be able to resist being devoured by that power. However, things seemed to have taken a peculiar turn within. Futian's world tree life spirit seemed to be gobbling up the deathly auras and the branches while still being inside the tree of death, absorbing it into his life palace. At present, his life palace was filled with death. It had taken over the world of his life palace altogether. It made his entire body course with deathly auras, so much so that even his fair face seemed to have the will of death streaking about it. In that god of the death-like statue, countless ancient tree-like arms were extending and lashing out at Futian, tangling with the world tree that was coiling around his body. Both powers were at odds with each other, encroaching each other. The world tree life spirit swayed, and divine light surged in every single part of the ancient tree, as if it was able to take everything in the world into it. Both divine trees seemed to be merging. The branches from that tree of death seeped into the world tree life spirit bit by bit. It looked like a snake was trying to swallow an elephant. Deathly auras continued to surge inside Xiaqing Yuan's body unceasingly. The deathly auras on her grew increasingly thick, and Futian was unable to do much than wrap her body up with his world tree, sending the energy of life into her body to fight the will of death in her stead. Time passed, and the ones outside continued to watch the extremely thick will of death rumbling about. The branches were all over the place, preventing them from telling what was happening inside. The will of death is subsiding, a mighty one said. Many people's pupils contracted. They were rather puzzled, wondering if Yi Futian was indeed alive. They were extremely curious as to what was happening inside. Wah! Some outside were seeing the branches wilting one after another at that moment, and they were shocked. The will of the great path of death is drying up? Just the hell is happening? They wondered. Yuxing stood about at the side and watched everything nervously. Everyone else at his side was doing the same. They were rattled at that scene, yet they were relieved deep down, thinking that it was going to be all right. That guy sure is always making miracles happen, Yuxing thought. Wu Yong and the others were very stunned as well. The longer they spent around Yi Futian, the more terrifying they found him to be. What happened all those years ago back at Emperor Qua's ruins was already a testament to his mettle, and they were unable to believe that he was even able to survive such a despairing state. The drain of that ancient tree was increasingly obvious. The will of death throughout the canyon was dwindling. Many mighty ones had their eyes locked right below them. At that moment, both Yi Futian and Xia Qingyuan seemed to be wrapped inside as if in a cocoon. The branches of his world tree had even extended outwards, wrapping up even that statue that looked like a god of death, devouring the deathly aura in them bit by bit. Despite having been dead for many years, that being still had the formidable great path of death in them. As a Renhuang, that power of great path had long been melded with their body and blood. Even though they had been dead for many years, their body remained intact, and the will of the great path stayed behind as well. The world tree speed into that being's body bit by bit, entangling and devouring them gradually. The will of death stained Yi Futian's world tree pitch black, yet the branches of the world tree continued to wrap that being up as if they were devouring that fire spirit orb back in Emperor Qua's ruins, as well as that bone from the divine elephant emperor of 10 directions. Yi Futian's body seemed to have turned into a terrifying whirlpool. The world tree rescinded back into his body and disappeared altogether. That Renhuang being was no longer seen as well. In Yi Futian's life palace, however, a statue-like being appeared instead. Yi Futian was pitch black all over, and the deathly aura was extremely thick about him. Xia Qingyuan was not in a good state either. Both of them seemed to have simply turned into statues unflinching. The tree of death that wrapped them both up wilted in a frenzy. The branches shrouding the place were wilting and falling as well. The deathly aura dissipated gradually, scattering in the winds. The deathly aura is almost gone. Those outside were very shocked. Yuxing stepped forward and charged inside the branches of the ancient tree, shattering them in a frenzy. Those branches became extremely fragile by then, and one blow was all it would have taken to crush them. They were quickly reduced to dust. Yuxing appeared somewhere below. 2 figures stood quietly by his side, like 2 statues. If you find any errors, broken links, non-standard content, etc., please let us know so we can fix it as soon as possible. Are they dead? People wondered. Are they dead? People wondered. All eyes were on those 2 statue-like figures below. Both of them were pitch black all over, a result of the encroachment of the will of death. At that moment, there was a whiff of aura coursing throughout Yi Futian's body, seemingly dispelling the will of death bit by bit. That caused Mighty One's pupils to contract. They were able to survive that. They thought, incredulous. Untold numbers of human and demonic beast cultivators alike had ended up dead, killed right after they were gobbled up by that boundless power of death. Those 2 were devoured by that tree of death as well, buried within the boundless will of death. That god of the death-like statue seemed to still be imbued with the will of the great path that it carried while still alive, and that being had gone specifically after those 2. Yet both of them survived. The crowd had yet to forget that there had been a will of Renhuang manifesting just a short while ago, and it was unable to handle the attacks and dissipated. All of those people around them were puzzled as to how Yi Futian and Xia Qingyuan managed to survive. Furthermore, they had just witnessed the will of death wilting away. The crowd then looked at the body of those 2, wondering if they had absorbed all that will of death. However, none of them found that to be remotely possible. There was no way 2 saints would have been able to consume every single bit of that tree of death's power. That would have probably only been possible if it was a Run Huang doing it. That statue of death is gone, Zhang Yuan of the Violet Heavenly Palace said while still in the air. Lightning flickered in his eyes as he walked. That statue had been the dead body of a Ren Huang. And that Ren Huang would have been someone extremely formidable, as that Ren Huang had been able to burst with such terrifying will of the great path of death, even after being dead for so long. That will was powerful enough to render the whole canyon into the canyon of death. However, that Ren Huang statue was no more at the moment. He wondered if it had indeed been those two who had taken it away. In another direction, a 9-headed phoenix was seen flapping its wings. Its eyes were extremely cold. It had been having a good time devouring the power of death, yet that power dried up instead. If it were to be able to get that dead body of Ren Huang, it would have been of huge benefit to its training. Many mighty ones harbored similar thoughts at the moment. That was the dead body of a Ren Huang, who harbored extremely formidable will of the great path of death. After all, no one would have thought of such things before. It was as everyone was busy trying to stay alive. At that moment, however, the crisis was over. Yi Futian managed to suck the tree of death dry. All of them naturally thought of other things at the moment. The mood in the canyon became rather peculiar. Qi Xiangang was unbelievably perceptive, and he was able to sense the changes in the atmosphere around him. The mighty ones in the canyon harbored greedy thoughts at the moment. He understood that they were all out to grab that Ren Huang's corpse. We have all entered the Origin Mountains and experienced quite a perilous period. We've all been through life and death situations right before this. While the two of them had never meant to pull what they did, they nonetheless helped all of us here escape the crisis in the canyon. I think we should all continue on our way right now, Qi Xiangang said, seemingly hinting to everyone that both Yi Futian and Xia Qingyuan could be considered their saviors. If they were to do anything against those two, that would have been like a dog biting the hand of the one who fed it. Vroom. A monster dove down at that moment, heading straight for Yi Futian and Xia Qingyuan at a blitzing speed. That monster was a rock, intending to zip past at high speeds and grab Yi Futian and Xia Qingyuan. Qi Shuanggong's expression remained cold, finding that be it humans or demons, all had greedy thoughts. Furthermore, demonic beasts would have usually expressed such thoughts in ways that were more direct. Qi Xiangang stepped out, and the ring of light of the great path coursed all about him. Ancient symbols circled him as he grabbed at the air. That rock that had been zipping past felt its body bound, and it was utterly unable to move. It was as if a formless might of the great path shrouded its body, preventing it from moving forward. Access web novel. Live if you like watching manga comics. Beings with no honor shall be cut down, Qi Xiangang muttered, and a sword fell from the sky, piercing through that rock's body in an instant and shattering it. Rain of blood fell from the sky shortly after. The eyes of many monsters contracted, finding Qi Xiangang to truly be formidable. Many mighty ones from the Violet Heavenly Palace turned to look at Zhang Yuan, who was at the front. It was as if they were waiting for his order, commanding them to grab the bodies or otherwise. Zhang Yuan's eyes sparkled with lightning. He had grown very curious as to how Yi Futian pulled all those extraordinary feats off. Take them, Zhang Yuan ordered. Several holiness of nirvanas from the Violet Heavenly Palace stepped forward and moved out. Lightning flashed all over the sky in an instant. Terrifying lightning of the great path gathered in the air and struck downward. Those holiness of nirvanas were extremely formidable beings, and the flashes of lightning they brought were of such might that they made others feel stifled. Qi Xiangang frowned and looked glum. The Violet Heavenly Palace was one of the pinnacle forces to be found in the Heavenly Mandate realm, and it was a given that cultivators who came from such a place would be extremely difficult to deal with. Furthermore, there were also mighty ones eyeing them. Hand him over to us. We shall spare his life. A mighty one from the Violet Heavenly Palace in the air said coldly. Qi Xiangang looked up in the sky, thinking that supreme forces of Heavenly Mandate realm were indeed overbearing. The will of the great path coursed all about him, and the clouds in the sky howled as they resonated with the great path. The mighty ones from the Violet Heavenly Palace willed as they saw him move. Lightning flashed, and bolts rained down on him continuously, making the scene looking like doomsday. Boom! A terrifying bolt of lightning struck from above, hitting Qi Xiangang. Qi Xiangang responded by pointing his finger in the air, clashing with that bolt of lightning. Intense rumbling was heard, and the air shook violently. The power of that one finger placed above Qi Xuanggang's head resisted that lightning bolt from above, eventually destroying it altogether. Ha! The mighty ones from the Violet Heavenly Palace saw that and felt astonished. They never expected that the holiness of Nirvana standing before them would be so powerful. They were vaguely able to sense that Qi Xuanggang's comprehension of the Great Path had surpassed that of theirs, and he stood at the very pinnacle of holiness of Nirvana level. Their eyes became more serious at that thought. According to what Tanzimo said, back in that battle, Yi Futian was boastful enough to tell them to pick any plane of sainthood they would have liked to fight against, and they did not select a holiness of Nirvana among themselves to do battle. From the looks of things at the moment, if there were to be a battle fought between holiness of Nirvanas from both sides, they would have lost all the same. They eyed each other, and several holiness of Nirvanas took to the sky, taking different corners and extended their hands, performing seals and invoking lightning from the heavens. Boom! Intense rumbling rattled in the eardrums of the mighty ones. Several holiness of Nirvanas appeared at the same time, bringing down heavenly might and boundless lightning in the area of the sky, making the scene look like doomsday. Training has not been easy, and you'll have a chance of getting to Runhuang Plain in the future. Don't make such a mistake right now. A holiness of Nirvana said to Qi Xiangang. That devastating might shrouded everything below within its range of attack. Qi Xiangang shot a look at those before him, and then took to the air, saying, "You all protect him." Boom! Rumbling was continuously heard in the sky. Upright bolts of lightning were conjured and brought down on him like swords. That was a terrifying killing move of the Violet Heavenly Palace, the Jiuxiao Thunder Sword. Down! They all muttered, and the move struck at Qi Xiangang like a terrifying flash. Qi Xuanggang's body was turned into a furnace of the Great Path, becoming intensely brilliant as he absorbed the great paths of the world. He then extended his hand to take that sword attack. The Jiuxiao Thunder Sword dropped onto him. He resisted through sheer brute force with only one hand taking the attack. Boundless devastating lightning dropped onto him right away. His body seemed to be that of flesh and blood no longer. It instead appeared to be more like a conjuration of the Great Path. Ancient symbols circled him, and that devastating lightning attack was unable to get through to him. Boundlessly terrifying devastating power swept all over the place in the air, making the scene look extremely shocking. Such power indeed. Many mighty ones were shocked at that scene before them. Qi Xiangang was taking on several holiness of Nirvanas from the Violet Heavenly Palace, all on his own, after all. That was a scene like no other. All who witnessed what was happening wondered who that person was. Tanzimo and those around him sported pale expressions. If they were to have holiness of Nirvana's fight in that battle back then, they would have no doubt lost. They had been allowed to take their pick at any plane of sainthood. A virgin from the supreme force that was Brahma's pure sky looked from afar, feeling shocked deep down. That person's plane is so profound that he would have probably touched the edge of Runhuang Plain. A holiness of Nirvana of Brahma's pure sky said. There would have been no way a holiness of Nirvana would have been able to take on several holiness of Nirvanas from the Violet Heavenly Palace otherwise. It was apparent that Qi Xuanggang's plane was more profound. Who are those people? A virgin of unbelievable beauty at the very front said. That woman was the #1 virgin in Brahma's pure sky, named Qin He. She was at the very pinnacle in terms of talents or appearance, and she was known as the #1 of the future Zhoutian goddesses. The one taking the lead in that group is Yi Futian, a younger brother in training of that descendant of the Gu clan, who was taken away by Gu Tianxing, Virgin Genie elaborated. She too was a leading figure of a line of virgins. The prophet prophesied that she would have become one of the Zhoutian goddesses. However, in the Brahma's pure sky, her position paled in comparison with Qin He's. The latter had been lauded unanimously as one who came from the #1 of the 9 lineages, and she would have become the leading figure of the Zhoutian goddesses. They were the ones who wreaked havoc in the Violet Heavenly Palace then, Qin He said. Holy light coursed all over her body, and she looked dazzling. Indeed, Virgin Genie nodded. She thought for a bit, and then continued. Furthermore, he was the last person who met the prophet. He looked in the direction where the battle was taking place. She deemed that a person capable of surviving being devoured by the tree of death would have had secrets on him. It was no surprise why Zhang Yuan wanted a piece of Yi Futian. He would have wanted more than just that dead body. In that direction, Zhang Yuan, the one with the supreme body of the path of the violet heavenly palace, moved. Devastating, world-ending might of lightning was conjured. Terrifying lightning diagrams appeared in the air. At the same time, demonic beasts flashed about in other directions, heading straight for Yi Futian. They deemed that Qi Xiangang would probably be the strongest of all of them. With him being held back by the ones from the violet heavenly palace, the demonic beasts would have their chance. Wu Yong and the others around flashed and appeared around Yi Futian, bursting with their strongest flames and bringing about a raging battle within mere moments. Sword matrices appeared on Yaya. She stepped into the air, and her eyes turned into swords, shooting straight at Zhang Yuan. Boom! 8 bolts of divine lightning were brought down. The heavenly thunder brought the lightning of doomsday. Yaya took to the air and lashed out with her sword, blasting at all 8 bolts of divine lightning, resisting them and intending to block their path. Her swords and the lightning bolts clashed. The lightning matrix of doomsday was conjured, and Zhang Yuan's eyes flashed with the terrifying will of lightning. Thunder rumbled as he stepped forward, shocking the spiritual will of everyone within earshot. "You're no match for me. Move aside," Zhang Yuan said. He pointed at the air with his palm, and thunder rumbled, making the might of lightning even more terrifying than before. He was of the supreme body of the path, and all lightning would submit to his command. If you find any errors, broken links, non-standard content, etc., please let us know so we can fix it as soon as possible. A huge battle burst high up the canyon, and many monsters acted at the same time. All the other demonic beasts were looking for opportunities as well. A huge battle burst high up the canyon, and many monsters acted at the same time. All the other demonic beasts were looking for opportunities as well. Qi Xiangang held off the holiness of nirvanas from the violet heavenly palace all on his own, fighting to a deadlock in the air. While his plane was indeed high, the ones he was fighting with were of a supreme force in the heavenly mandate realm, after all, and they were extremely formidable. No common holiness of nirvanas would have been able to fight against him otherwise, given how he was already at the edge of breaking into Runhuang Plain. He had ended up killing the 9th servant at the ancient imperial city, which was known as the #1 city back in Crimson Dragon Realm back then. Such battles would have needed the fighters to at least be at unblemished saint level before they were able to do anything. The monsters protecting Kong Xian acted as well, but given how the monsters they were about to fight were of overwhelming numbers, they would not have probably lasted for long. "Get him out of this battlefield," a cold voice said. Kong Xian, Yi Wuchen, and the others looked at the one talking. It was the glass saint. While she had been with them all this time, she hardly spoke, making it such that she was hardly noticeable. She spent most of her time training with Yaya. At that moment, her beautiful yet emotionless eyes seemed to be flickered with something. She flashed and moved forward. Yu Xing charged forward as well, intending to take Yi Futian away. Boom! Might of lightning struck from above. Yu Xing roared, and the lightning bolt struck him. Its power coursed throughout his body, making his blood boil, and he had to stop. He looked up coldly at the mighty ones of the violet heavenly palace, who were coming down from above. Sword will on Yaya burst in the air. Thousands of swords appeared around her, and were turned into a terrifying storm before charging straight at Zhang Yuan. That storm of swords seemed to be able to envelop the sky. Zhang Yuan glared at his opponent with contempt while he continued moving. Lightning of the great path was sent down, blasting onto the storm of swords, shattering them all together. However, he then saw Yaya disappearing from where she stood altogether. At the very next moment, Yaya was seen taking Yi Futian's and Xia Qingyuan's bodies and left right away. She took only one step, which seemed like a sword zipping through the air, and she ended up somewhere far away. "You think you can just run?" The mighty ones were all dumbfounded. Zhang Yuan did not expect that Yaya would have just chosen to run so suddenly. He took one step and propelled himself forward like purple lightning. Yaya continued to be bombarded with lightning strikes all from above as he chased after her. Monsters up the air howled as they moved above. Many demonic beasts targeted her and attacked. Boom! Yaya zipped past the air like a sword, evading the incoming attacks. At times, attacks blasted right onto her, and rumbling was heard. However, she disappeared right after that, making it unclear if the attacks actually hit her. The great path of space. That speed was comparable to a holiness of nirvana, indeed. Qin He, a virgin of Brahma's pure sky, said. She stepped forward as well, chasing after Yaya. It seemed that the mighty ones of the Canyon of Death seemed to have coalesced into a torrent within moments. It was as they were all heading in the same direction. The Canyon of Death was extremely vast. However, as she kept zipping about in the sky, she eventually came to the edge and charged outside. The place beyond was still filled with mountainous regions, looking barren and dead. Demonic clouds shrouded the sky as if to tell them that danger lurked everywhere. Lightning continued to flash around Yaya. It was evident that Zhang Yuan remained right behind her, and she had yet to shrug him away. There was a 9-headed phoenix in that demonic cloud, clad in crimson flames, riding the clouds as it moved. Its wings were able to shroud the sky as soon as they were spread, enabling it to zip past a vast distance. Its 9 pairs of eyes were incredibly sharp, as it kept a close eye on the ones below. The speed at which it moved was incredible, as it was able to catch up with everyone. 9-headed phoenixes were an extremely rare breed, considered to be a mutated breed of the phoenixes. While those birds were not recognized by the phoenixes to be one of them, but 9-headed phoenixes were all of terrifying talents. They were able to travel at blitzing speeds. They had 9 heads, and were versed in manipulating phoenix fire. Furthermore, they harbored the potential for conjuring flames of devastation. As such, that 9-headed phoenix had been consuming the will of death back then. There were also many demonic beasts and human cultivators coming from all corners. However, unless their training was extremely formidable, they would not have been able to catch up. Zhang Yuan, who was still in the air, frowned at that moment. The Origin Mountains were filled with danger. If they were to simply shoot forward in a frenzy, it was possible that they would have met the same fate as they did back at the Canyon Death, their lives all hanging by a thread. However, the woman before Zhang Yuan simply charged forward insanely. Even if his attacks managed to hit and injure her, she adamantly refused to stop. At that moment, Zhang Yuan kept his gaze forward and began to feel slightly uneasy. Cultivators were extremely perceptive, especially when they were at his level. While they were still unable to predict what would have happened, they were still able to feel something when they were truly near somewhere dangerous. He lifted his head and looked forward, feeling that they might have stepped into somewhere dangerous again. The terrain ahead of them was a barren low ground with many swords stabbed into it. The swords were all filled with dirt and rust. It was as if they had been weathered for many, many years. Read more chapter on novel Full One Look, and one was able to tell that the swords were endless. Auras that made one's heart race emanated from the land. There was a sword-shaped hill somewhere far away, looking like a hill-like gigantic sword had been plunged into the ground, pinning down everything around. As Zhang Yuan got increasingly close, that sense of danger became increasingly intense. However, that woman before him did not seem to have any intentions of stopping, but had simply charged into that area. Zhang Yuan's face became pale. He wondered if she had a death wish. Yaya had actually hesitated for a bit back there, but she quickly recalled that not even that tree of death had been able to kill Futian. So the other dangerous areas would not have been able to pose a threat to his life. She was able to sense that Futian had fallen into a coma, due to the will of death being too great for him to digest. But he was recovering this whole time. What was happening at that moment was but a process. Her speed had noticeably decreased. She trained in the way of swords, yet she was unable to sense any sword will at the moment. She only felt that the ground below was dangerous. A formless current seemed to have melded into the air, seeping in her body, and making her feel somewhat restless. That current seemed to have harbored intense, formless resentment, affecting her will. However, she did not stop right there, and then, electing to continue moving into deeper regions. Zhan Yuan, who was a supreme body of the Great Path, looked at her, thinking that she indeed had guts. He concluded that if she dared to do so, then there was nothing for him to be afraid of. Lightning flashed at that thought, and he sped forward. Lightning coursed all over his body, and rumbling thunder was heard, blasting away anything in his way. The power imbued within the will of the Great Path of Lightning was inherently capable of dispelling negative things and beings. The power of the lightning of the 9 heavens was to dispel evils and protect the righteous, after all. That aura permeating the place seeped into his mind as soon as he stepped into the area as well, intending to affect him. However, his entire being rumbled with thunderous sounds, making him look solemn. It was as if he had been enveloped in holy lightning, dispelling all that evil aura around him. He lowered his head and glanced below. That place should have been a battlefield all those years ago, suppressing the souls of many mighty ones from back then, thus giving birth to that intense resentment all over the place. Many mighty ones arrived later. However, when they had gotten near that area, they were unable to help but slow down, appearing very hesitant. Those who were able to go that far had been those of greater training, and as such, they were also more perceptive as well. Just when they were still hesitating, hurricanes whipped about in the air. A 9-headed phoenix zipped past into the area. Its eyes were cold and overbearing. It was as if it was determined to get its claws on whatever it could. Yaya continued on her way forward, getting deep into the area. Negative emotions continued to affect her. It was fortunate that she had been training for 2 lifetimes, resulting in her extremely stable will. She stopped when she came to that sword-like hill, putting Yi Futian and Xiaqing Yuan down. Cough. Red blood was seen spilling from the corner of her mouth after a soft cough. She looked at Zhan Yuan, who was coming at her, and she burst with raging sword will. It was apparent that she had been injured when she was on the run, and she had been holding it in all the while. Zhan Yuan came to her from the air, and lowered his head to look at her from afar. Thunderous lightning flashed in the air, and will of lightning was seen flickering in his eyes. He then said to Yaya, "There is no need for you to do this. Hand him over. I won't take his life." Yaya glared at him with cold eyes. She did not say anything. Sword will of Great Path coursed all over her, and was then turned into sword diagrams. The sky was filled with intense killing intent, shrouding the entire place. Boom! There seemed to have been an ethereal figure emerging from within her in an instant, melding with her way of the sword. A dazzling sword matrix lashed out with the sword, moving quicker than a bolt of lightning. Lightning diagrams appeared above Zhan Yuan's head. 8 bolts of lightning flashed, circling about, and boundless divine lightning gathered. A bolt of lightning was fired, and it clashed with the sword. 2 extremely dazzling light of devastation crossed in midair. That devastating power swept out at the vast space all around them. Yaya's clothes and her long hair billowed. She stepped forward, and yet another ethereal figure burst out of her body, then transformed into a sword. Boom! The sword came through and melded with the sword that was previously fired, making the might of the sword even more powerful. Fight with your life all you want. It won't be of any use, Zhan Yuan said coldly. His hands waved about, and that terrifying lightning diagram brought even more bolts of lightning down around Yaya, locking her surroundings away. A bolt of lightning that was even more terrifying blasted at the center, clashing with her swords. If it had not been for Yaya having comprehension of the Great Path at holiness of Nirvana level, she definitely would not have been his match. In truth, despite still being an unblemished saint, Zhan Yuan's combat prowess was already at holiness of Nirvana level. The bodies of Yi Futian and Xiaqing Yuan were placed above that sword-like mountain. Boundless resentment headed straight for both of them, absorbing the will of death all about them. Streaks of light coursed about Yi Futian's body. He seemed to have been able to sense what was going on outside, as he repelled the will of death with everything he had. Thunderous noises were vaguely heard from within his body. Boom! Gales whipped about. A 9-headed phoenix emerged from the demonic clouds high above the sky, A cry of the phoenix was heard as it opened its mouth, heading straight for Yi Futian and Xia Qingyuan, intending to gobble them up. "You filthy beast." Zhang Yuan shot a glance at it, and a bolt of lightning rained from above straight at the nine-headed phoenix. The bird then spread its crimson wings, taking the brunt of the lightning attack head-on. That will of lightning tempered its body. Every single feather on the bird seemed to have been impenetrable, as if they were constructs of the heavens, glimmering with dazzling light. It continued to dive down, and headed straight for Yi Futian's body. It was apparent that the nine-headed phoenix was a monster so ridiculously terrifying that it had no fear of the one who possessed a supreme body of the great path. The aura all about Yi Futian rumbled below. Just when the bird was about to consume him, that pitch-black body of his burst with faint dazzling light. Voom! That bird came down, and picked both of them up in its beak. Its vast wings continued to flap, intending to fly away from that dangerous place. However, at that moment, Yi Futian finally burst with intense, brilliant light. That pitch-black figure opened his eyes all of a sudden. If you find any errors, broken links, non-standard content, etc., please let us know so we can fix it as soon as possible. You're tuning in to the Li Mei's Wuxia Whispers YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support. And don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.